Hey guys, how you doing? It's me, Reggie. Yeah, I'm sorry I started a little later than I normally did. I have a few things I had to take care of, but I'm here now, and today I'm gonna do somewhat of a shorter stream today since I'll probably have to have other errands later on today. So get my pencil. We'll get started in just a few moments. Hey Shay, glad to see you drop in. Good to see you. You see, I just had it a moment ago. Sorry about this, folks. Yeah, here we go. Perfect. So for today, I'm gonna be doing another character. It's actually another character from my friend Spiffy. So they have this character that's named I think his name was Moreland Malthor. That's his name. And basically, he's actually kind of a dragon character. And the thing with Malthor, well, he's also a musician. He's also known for very prim and very type of proper type of guy. So but I know one thing that actually happens in story that has written from him. One day he ends up getting kind of like lost in the woods for a long period of time, and he ends up escaping. Probably about like 5 or 6 months later. And of course, once he comes back out, he's almost a complete mess. And Shovel, which I think there's more to the story too, but that's a good overall. They were all Oh, yeah, that's right. Halloween does start next week. All right, and I figured I'd kind of do something that'd be kind of sort of like a sweet, almost Halloween theme too as well. So I figured drawing kind of a scary dragon would also be great as well. And so I figured with him, I figured, let's say he just managed to kind of get out of the wood. Maybe he's at the edge of the woods. He's kind of like looking for food. Because of course you've been in the woods for like maybe 5 or 6 months. Like you're probably and you haven't really eaten much. You're probably starving once you finally get out and finally find what you need. So I figure I'll have this version where I got his little eyes, I have his little snout for his nostrils. They have enough for his bottom lip. And I know looking at his design, he's kind of got like, at least from design stuff from what that sheet showed, he's kind of got like pretty thick eyebrows. He's got these horns. He's got long flowing hair too. I know Norman wears a hat too, but I figured the hat's probably something that probably would have got lost. I figured maybe it fell off. Maybe he lost, or he probably tore it up. Maybe you ate the hat. But yeah, I can't believe it. Halloween will be here before we know it, because that's for us. That'll be the time when I finish up with Drawtober. In fact, speaking of Drawtober, let me kind of show you guys some of the other stuff I've been working on so far, because I showed you some of the stuff I did for Drawtober so far. I don't think I got a chance to show all of it, but let me show you real quick. So I think how far am I gonna go back? I think I'll go back to this past Monday. Actually, I think I'll go up to this past the last Saturday. So for those of you who were here last week may remember this guy when I did Day 18 for podcasts. That's the one I did with like Fry, Shaggy, other podcasts that got Bonkers on as a guest. So some of y'all remember that one. Of course, that one ended being a lot of fun. Then I also that next day I did Forgot. And that one, that's when I was kind of drew myself actually almost forgetting to draw something that day, which is true because I did almost forget to draw something, that day. And day 20 was Adolescence. That's the one I did something, with Ed and Nettie here. The first time in a while since I've drawn these three, so that was actually a really lot of fun to do. Day 21, I did another one called Solo, and that's one I did with Snooze from Rescuers. So I kind of played, and this was kind of a brief callback to another drawing I did years ago called 70s Club Night, where I did a lot of different like Disney characters all together from the 70s, and he was kind of in the middle. So that's kind of a brief kind of like callback to that one. Another one I did was of day 22 with singing lessons. That's when I got two like Looney Tunes characters. I got Elmer Fudd and Giovanni Jones from Long Haired Hair, so two popular Looney Tunes characters. So I got those two. Day 23. This is also kind of on my I think it's probably tied with my day 10 entry as far as being my favorite Jordan, because this turned out really well. Cuisine, so that's something I did with Princess Tiana. That one ended up being really great to do. And also for day 24, that's the most recent one as of right now. That's what I did with two dragons, Mushu, but also Mushu from Mulan, but also Dojo from Xiaolin Showdown. And that's probably the first time I've drawn this character, because I hadn't really thought about that show in years. But one time when I was thinking of drawing dragons, I thought about Mushu. I thought, why don't I do Dojo too, since I hadn't thought about it. Plus, I remember back when I used to watch the show, even though it was never like my top favorite show, like it was a show I always enjoyed whenever it was on, and I always enjoyed seeing Dojo because he was always fun. Plus, it helps, like Eddie Murphy, he was also a dragon that was voiced by a comedian too. Cause, yeah, whereas Mushu was voiced by Eddie Murphy, like Dojo was voiced by Wayne Knight, and they're both sassy too. Just they have a different like flavor to sassy. Whereas Eddie's sass is more like abrasive and raw. Dodo was a little more on the flamboyant side. Here, so let me see if I can bring his neck in a bit more here. I think I'll have like the part of his shoulder, because I think I'll have his arm stretched out. Because I figured I'd probably draw him where maybe he's kind of just reached a clearing, and he's just pushing like the branches out of the way. Okay, his torso. Starting to sound a little tired, I think I had a pretty big breakfast the other day, so energy's kind of catching up with me, but that happens. Let me make sure I have enough room for his tail. Want to make sure I have enough room for his legs. Yeah, his back. I think I was let it kind of bent back. Let me see how that looks. Give me just one moment. And in fact, I think what I probably should do, let me bring this leg a bit forward. Looks all right. That looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm just kind of going back and forth between some of the other I think some of the other like reference photos I have. I think I have some pics that that he's done, but also some of the ones that but also the ones that other artists have done as well. Sorry, hang on, just one more again, got called. Yeah, false alarm. It was just another scam caller. I tend to get those a lot for some odd reason. You know, nowadays, anytime I get those, I usually just don't say anything. Because usually a lot of times they'll just kind of look for you to really talk first, so they can kind of like what your audio kill, and then they can prompt you to respond right back. So I figured for him, let me just kind of like bring out his features a bit more here too. So let me get his nostrils. Let me bring out his eyes. I think that little tuft of hair over top of hair, like over like where his horns are. Let me get the bottom part of his upper lip. Let me get the bottom part of his lip. Let me bring that in. Out a bit more. They bring out the sleeve of his suit. Let me kind of bring his back leg out a bit more. They'll give him pretty long feet. I mean, almost long like werewolf feet in a way. Yeah, I figured maybe his wings are kind of bent too. So that's probably was not able to kind of really fly out of there like he probably normally would. So I did that. Let me see if I have enough room for his hair. They have it coming down from the other side. You know, the other shit is kind of like the end towards the other way. They have tears that go in his clothing too. I think we have one sleeve over here that's actually kind of fully ripped off over on this side. Let me should have room for his hands. Oh, we got other ones here. I meant to start off, more of like this rough sketch like earlier in the day. But I didn't get a chance to really do that, so I figured I'm kind of doing it now. I'm trying to do it to more now whenever I kind of do these type of sketches. I tend to do them like before I start with the actual stream first. That way, once the stream starts, I can just go right into actual, just actually kind of like refine a sketch as far as like bring it out. Because usually like the rough sketch like this can take a while because sketch when starting from the beginning, especially if I haven't done like say like a thumbnail sketch. Because usually if I do a thumbnail sketch, that's when all I just kind of do is kind of work out the kinks and see what part of the sketch works, what part doesn't work, and then I can just start going on the actual real thing. So let me kind of start thinning the bottom part of his leg. And let me get his other foot here. Let me kind of bring this forward. I think I'll make this a little bit bigger, like since we're a little closer. Belza, I felt archive creator, go to channel your so right. Oh, thanks, Bill. I appreciate it. I'm glad you like it so far. Hey, thank you. I'm glad you like my stuff. Yeah, I've probably been on like making. I've been doing art for years, but I think I've just been recently been kind of like doing a lot more art stuff on here for the past like few years, especially kind of like doing these streams. And so I appreciate you actually kind of dropping in. But yeah, like this character is one of my friend Spiffy's character is Malthor, so that's who I'm drawing. So that's the dragon character that we're drawing here. And so in 61, since he's normally very prim and proper, guys, I figure we'll have some of his suit because he normally wears a suit. So, but even though he still looks kind of disheveled, I still will at least have some of where it's still kind of left over because even though he's kind of living left in the woods for a long period of time, he can't really eat. He hasn't really had anything he could eat. He still wants to kind of keep a sense of like dignity and elegance to himself, because that's kind of a big part of his character is that he's very big on actually being very prim and proper, and elegant too. Yeah, let me see if I can kind of refine his other hand on this side more. I'm gonna try to make his hand just a little bit longer. I think I'll probably bring his thumb out a bit more here too. Yeah. Hey, Brian Barney, hello. Glad you dropped in. Yeah, I'm actually kind of doing this drawing of one of my friends, Spiffy's Malthor. Yeah, I'm still, I am planning on actually kind of doing another one of your characters again soon. I am, because I was thinking about probably doing another one with Shark Tooth again, because he was pretty fun to do last time. Yeah. And it's really kind of an art trade type of deal too, because while I'm gonna be doing Spiffy's character Malfoy, he's all he's also gonna be doing one of my characters Earl. For those who haven't seen Earl, he's actually based this cowboy character that I created like a while back, and I don't know if I got like a picture of him here. And basically, it's part of like this Wild West story that I'm currently still kind of working on right now. Basically, I'm in the process where I've actually kind of like working on making some more characters for it. But let me see if I got a picture of him here real quick. Let me see. Yeah, because I got a book with me. I'm just trying to see if it's in there. He should still be in here. But I forgot that a lot of the once I kind of took a lot of these pictures that they have them scanned in, I kind of forgot to put them in the order they were in, like before I took them out. So I should have one. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. So this is the character, I'm pictured that Spiffy's gonna be drawing. Earl, so he's one of the main characters that I have in the story. So basically, what I got going on like right now are basically two characters. Basically the main guy Gino, where basically he's kind of he's a cook who ends up becoming a sheriff, ends up embracing that role. I think some of you will probably hear last time when I did that one. But one of the things he does, because since he's inexperienced, he ends up kind of making friends with this guy who's already an experienced cowboy, but he's also very gruffly, very has a lot of experience, and so and so those two are kind of the main two characters I got going as of right now. I am planning on adding some other characters down the line to kind of really flesh out the cast, because I know for the story I want to make sure I have a whole bunch of other like characters, like in that that'll interact with that shit and get in trouble with. So yeah, that's something I do plan to do for, because I need to get around to actually kind of fleshing out the more the story too as well. In fact, let me bring his tail up a bit more here too. Yeah, now I think. Yeah, now I'm really kind of liking how it's turning out so far. That was the only thing about like sketching phase. Like sometimes it can be really hard. Actually, I think I'll have his tail kind of droop down a bit though. I think if he's more worn out and tired, I think I don't know if his tail would necessarily be kind of wagging up front like that. I figure maybe I'll draw maybe some tree branches that he's just kind of like pushing all the way back. Yeah, so basically I'm just kind of maybe I have one maybe big branch here that he pretty much ends up breaking because he's hit it at with such force. So I think I'll probably have some bushes here too. I think I'll kind of actually put a little bit more bushes around, kind of his feet. Just more bushes here, just more bushes there. Some more bushes here too. You might have seen this, but I think pretty much the inspiration sheet for my Chuck series. I don't know if I've seen that yet. I think later on once I'm done, so I have to go check. I have to check it out. I'll have to, yeah, I'll have to check out later on which gun. I did get a chance to look at some of the that di- those dialogue those dialogue scripts you actually been sent. So I don't know if I've seen part of it earlier that you said in Discord. But I really, you got a knack for doing like very like you very goofy, like fun dialogue. I'm happy Louisa drawing turned out great. Look forward to drawing Joanne the Pumpkin next week. Oh yeah, I look forward to seeing that one too. That one too. Yeah, I can't wait to see like once that one's actually done. Yeah, I just can't believe. Oh, cool. That's excellent. Yeah, in fact, that actually reminds me, kind of like one of the things I'm still thinking about doing like for next month, because now that the now October's almost over, I have to think about kind of another like new thing I might want to do for November. It's like because I might have to do another art challenge, or I might just do like another project, because I know one of the things I'm doing for my art project is that I was actually going to I was gonna do some more stuff for the Western story I got going on, so I was probably work on maybe like making more characters. Characters I didn't thank you. I've been getting so better at bringing a good nature on series. Yeah, and some of it's about like draw. Yeah, I found out like the few times like I've written, because normally when I've written I tend to do a lot of like more like fanfic related stories. Turns like writing comedy is actually a lot harder actually a lot harder than it looks, because one thing is drawing something that she sounds fun, but then it's also like kind of piecing away to where it has like a good setup, a good punchline, and also making sure and just make sure even if it doesn't always land, just make sure it at least sounds funny in a way too. because I know for me, whenever I think back when I was writing fanfic stories, so one of the things I did, I always kind of watched of course I always watched the series, but also kind of watch them over again, where I kind of pay attention to not only the dialogue but also like the characters' personalities, where I would try to write them down, but I would try to write the dialogue down in a way where it would make sense for this character. Like, say if I was writing Yak, I'd try to write something that would make sense for him to say. Or if I was writing something for maybe like either for Wacko or maybe for Pinky, I'd try to write down specific to something they would say, because they have very distinct personalities, and having those personalities that are very distinct, it makes it, I feel, it makes it a lot easier to kind of bounce off ideas and actually putting them in like different situations. In fact, that's kind of part of the reason why Looney Tune characters are always so popular and why they've always endured as long as they did, because you can put those characters in just about any different situation, and they always manage to make magic for what you got. Yes, I think what I will do now. Yeah, because that's right. Because after that, Thanksgiving's gonna be right to corn. Then Christmas. In fact, I haven't decided what I even wanted for Christmas just yet. Because that's the weird thing when it comes to like the Christmas holidays. Like, I for some reason, like nowadays, I tend to not have any idea. Like I said, I got 50 characters. I still remember all their personalities. And see, that's amazing that you got like over like 50 characters. You gotta keep up with all of them. Keep on saying, and see, that's a great accomplishment to manage to get that many. Because I've always found like writing a whole bunch of characters to be like really, really challenging deal, because you don't want to get to a situation where you don't want a scene to get too crowded. You don't want a scene where it's like you got too many characters on screen at once. Yeah, but I think it's looking pretty good so far. At least Rio, so you see he's kind of busting out of the woods, and he's probably saying something like, I think I'm always like, "Is there any food? Where's the food?" Because he's been in there for so long. Yeah, and I think for the Western story, I have no idea how many characters I'm planning on actually like adding, at least as far as actually like main supporting characters go, because my best case scenario, like I want to try to have at least 20, and because I do want to have at least a good cast and like folks of like, I do want to have at least 10, because I do want to have at least, I want to say at least 5 to 10 people like for like the main cast, and then maybe like a good 10 extra, like 10 more for like supporting cast. So I think what I will do now, I'm trying to see what else do I want to add before I go forward with the next stage. So yeah, so I think I am gonna kind of like fine tune a few other details here and there before I just start going in on like say the pen. And because I do want to make sure I have enough for his claws, I figure at this point maybe since prim and proper, but he probably has a chance to really kind of file his nails. Hey Spiffy, I'm glad you dropped in. It's good to see you. Yeah, I was hoping you get a chance to see part of the stream. Yeah, I ended up kind of starting a little later than I intended, but I was glad that I was able to actually start like at a good time. So you can see I've already kind of got started on earlier. Oh, great, cool, great. In fact, I was just talking about him just a few moments ago. Because I was saying, I think for the Western story, in fact, that's the funny thing. I haven't even thought of a title for the story just yet, too, which is strange. I haven't even thought of a title just yet. But then I think about it is like, when it comes to stories, is like, for some reason, sometimes the title's the first thing I think of, but a lot of times, the the title is usually one of the last, or at least is one I think about like halfway. And I was saying is that if I decide to ever, when I have like a full cast for a story, like I'm thinking at most I do want to have at least about 10 or 20 altogether, and that's including like both like main cast and like supporting cast. Where he has, okay, I think what I will do now, I think I am gonna go straight in with, with the ballpoint pencil. Let me go ahead and get that real quick. So let me get off with his little feral eyes. Because of course, like, since he's out of fear, maybe his eyes are a little more bloodshot, maybe he's kind of wide-eyed. Yeah, because even though he wants to be prim and proper, he's still, he's hungry, he's famished right for next week's food, so he's gonna have, a bit of that crazy look in his eyes. I have like 18 characters in Maya. Oh, that's wonderful though. Yeah, because I know you have a lot too, but I just couldn't yeah, but I almost lost count of like kind of how many. Here, let me just kind of get his bottom. I think I'll kind of make the bottom a little bit more jagged. Since he's kind of a little more disheveled. Let me add a little indents in his teeth. He's got very sharp teeth. Yeah, love his character expression. And thank you. Because I want him to just kind of look very disheveled, very man. Just kind of great contrast. I was like doing Wild Man Malthor a second. I thought you were doing regular Malthor. Yeah, I'm doing kind of Wild Man one because I know that's one that. Because I think that's one you recommend to actually do for the stream. I still might think one of these I still might end up doing kind of like regular on Malthor in the near future. But I remember we had a lot of fun kind of just discussing like how it'd be good if it was more like wilder stage. I figured that'd be something that'd be more kind of fun to do. Yeah. I think it comes like work with so many different characters. Like, I think one of the challenges, like even when I was doing the Animaniac like fanfics, like it was always a challenge with doing so many characters. Of course, I just want to make sure like each character gets like a good amount of like screen time, and make sure there's not too many all up at once. Because I remember I've seen like some like fanfics where they try to get everybody, and I've seen some where they do a great job where everyone pretty much all like the main characters everyone knows them for they all manage to get some screen time. They're all on in the story, maybe for maybe a chapter or two. They get good line in, and they go ahead and write them out. But they're usually spread over like different chapters. Whereas I've seen some where they basically try to get everybody within one chapter, so it ends up getting to a point to where it seems kind of cluttered in a way. Like one that comes to mind. It's funny how it gets like that later in my show. Basically, shows up while doing it being live with location where I sold Rich Guy Ball. Yeah, I figured there was more. Yeah, I figured there was kind of more to it, but I figured like that was something that would kind of get revealed like in the story like later on down the line. Fine, back to flying, and he finds himself in the woods and gets amped by Henry of all people, or rather, Henry. Oh yeah, I remember because I had drawn him a kind of while back too. Yeah, I think one of these days you and I will have to kind of draw him again. Yeah, draw those two interacting again. In fact, let me see how that's. I wonder if I want to actually. Yeah, in fact, let me kind of like kind of tear apart the sleeves here too. In fact, let me kind of bring this back. Let me kind of like bunch up around his muscles here. Let me bunch up here. We get the underside of his arm as well. Maybe he's got a bit of a tear, with his blazer here. He finds about people. Here, let me get his other arm here as well. Since trying to draw a little shorter, right, since his arm is a little bit turned a little bit further away from us. Let me kind of get his little hands. I figure like with him is that and I figured maybe his gloves have kind of couldn't fully come off. So now since he's been in the woods for a while, kind of like scavenging, so I think his nails has probably got a chance to kind of start growing a lot longer. on there. I'm currently updating Design Barrel Bear, Alvin Bear, and Angelina Bear, and Spy Bear. Oh, nice! I can't wait to see how those turn out once they're done. Actually, I really do like the line work. How I was looking a lot of your more recent ones. Yeah, it's very clean. Because I know if they tend to experiment using whether using like regular like black lines, but also more like colored lines as well. Because I've seen you use like more brown ones, these like blue ones, and I like that look. It looks really nice. Because in fact, that's something I'm planning on trying to do a little bit more myself, as far as doing more stuff with more like colored lines. Another thing I was seeing because of artists drawing my characters that they always add the lip thing that I do. I don't know why I draw it, but I love that it's kind of like a signature. Yeah, but I think how things like the lip, especially the bottom lip. For some reason, I think it's a good thing to add because like I feel lips sometimes when artists draw this, they tend to try to ignore that. But the way you draw this, it can really kind of like accentuate good parts of their character too. If they got a very protruding lip, but they got one that's not too pronounced. So I figure here's part of the tree. So here's probably a tree, that he's actually breaking here. And I figured maybe I have some of these leaves that are falling down. Like since it's kind of like hitting them all at once. And maybe maybe there's like a little smaller tree that's like right next to that one where that one's probably just being bent back. And I figure here maybe these are probably like kind of like just some more just kind of like a bunch of like just different leaves that are probably like falling out because he's pulling these trees back so fast. But what was another thing I was getting ready to say? Oh yeah, with different characters. Yeah, but I've seen, from my years back when I used to do fan fiction a lot. Like I come across somewhere, I see some like folks where they try to get a lot of characters in where they do a great job where they get all the characters everyone wants to see, they get their personalities down pat, but also they give them a good amount of screen time too, where basically over the course of chapters, like this character will have a screen time, this character will have one chapter, these character has another, and it's spread throughout the story. It's not to the point where like every character has to have something like within one chapter. And while it can be done well, it can be really hard to get to look just right because you have instances where it makes a scene like really cluttered. Like there was one particular I think I had been coming across years ago. I forgot who was the author, but and in other words, it was like a crossover one too. So it crossed over 3 different fandoms. So it crossed over Oliver and Company, Josie and the Pussycats, and also Pussycats, a little bit of Animaniacs, but it also had some OC characters in there too. So there's like almost 4 different groups of characters going on. And the weird thing about it, because I think it was I think how did it go? I think it was the one where I think well first it was basically Oliver and Company. It was basically the movie like from word for word for the most part. But the only difference it had this side plot with Animix. I think it had Katie Kaboom. I think that's that girl that who had that explosive temper, and there was a whole like side plot of her that she kept losing her temper, but then she'd end up kind of becoming a villain after a while. But then there was this whole thing where apparently like, she ends up teaming with Sykes, the main villain. That of course Jillian Quick have to stop her. Like it was a whole like I feel like in separate stories it would have been great, but like it was a mess. But it was fascinating though, because that's the one thing about like fanfics is like it's not always like the bad ones that tend to stick with me more. Even though those can leave an impression, sometimes it's the ones where they have a pretty good they seem like they have a pretty good concept. They have some pretty good ideas. They just don't really do more with them. And sometimes I think those are the ones that are like a lot more interesting to talk about. Where not necessarily these ones that are like they're so bad they're not worth talking about, but really the ones where they have a lot of like different stuff going on to where it's like, oh wow, there could have been a lot more done with this. But even then, when I come across like reviews, like for stuff like that, even if I decide to leave a review for them, I try not to be too mean. I'd be too mean. Usually, I do always list like maybe like the good stuff I liked first, stuff I thought things that draw me to it the most, what I liked, and then kind of move on to maybe I say more of the bad stuff, like later on, because I don't necessarily want to be a troll. I don't necessarily want to say something like you suck or anything like that. I always try, if I'm giving a view on something, I always say, what I like, what I didn't, I did like, just be as honest about it, and that's just kind of move on from there. Because I think another like strange one like I remember coming across was I think this one I didn't get a response back. I think another crazy one I read from a while back. Since I'm talking about fanfics, there was one I came that was in the Aladdin family. It was I forgot the name, but it was a stranger because that one was one I think it was centered on Princess Jasmine. So that was the thing. It was one where Aladdin, main character, he's not in the movie. So for the most part, somewhat, it's the first movie, but Aladdin's not in it at all. It kind of centers around Princess Jasmine, but instead of hooking up with him, he ends up hooking up on Razul, the main palace guard. And yeah, I know it's kind of a weird combo, I know, but what's interesting, like it almost worked because like the first half of it, it was kind of like the bodyguard, kind of like Kevin Costner, Whitney Houston. It was kind of like that for like a brief while in the beginning, but after a while, it got kind of off the rails because, of course, like characters were out of character. Then they had these weird side plots going on because I know there was at one point, I think Jafar had stretched like and it caused like some sort of like nuclear apocalypse. No, I think it was a meteor that was gonna try to hit Agrabah. There was that. There was a whole side plot of Albus Maul from the TV show. And there was a TV show that was there too. Genie does come in as well. It was a huge mess. It was long too because it was like 30 damn chapters too, but. I almost kind of really want to read it again because, like, even though it wasn't a great story, like I almost kind of give him props for at least going there with such a wild idea like that. You might have seen this too, but I mentioned Chris Singh is currently in the notes phase. I think I had seen parts of it. I have seen parts of this too. I'll check in and see if there's any ones I hadn't read. They got me more fans at some point. They're also creative and interesting. Yeah, honestly, when it comes to fanfics, like those are kind of things that kind of made me want to give like writing a try because it was always so much fun to kind of like read what other people had did when it came to actually like doing different characters. Like I remember one in particular that I really did like. I never finished it. I need to get back and see if it's still around. It was one from the Beauty and the Beast deal. It was actually pretty popular. I forgot the title, but it was one with Belle and Gaston. So basically, it's basically like an alternate universe where Belle and Gaston actually, but the big thing about it is that rather than Gaston become a villain, he actually goes to a character arc where he basically learns to appreciate Belle, who she is as a person, and he actually becomes like from what I've heard and from reviews, but also I've seen it for, he actually becomes a more compassionate and good-natured person like further down the line, which is really neat because I like seeing stuff like that. I like seeing stories where they take the characters that we know and love and put them in different directions and exploring different sides of them. Yeah, I've always like loved that kind of stuff. Like another one that I really love, like this is also one of my top favorite twos. The AMX Fanium. In fact, this kind of what got me into just like I'm Creative for Illustration, Joanna, which I've seen, Ari and Little Angel. I don't know if I've seen that one yet. Tilly and Friends, that one I'm familiar with. Ricard and Jamelina, I think I've seen that one. I take a look at her fans for inspiration regardless how well the dialogue is written. And too, yeah, because that's the thing. Because dialogue is always so tricky to get right. Because I think a lot of times I'll come across like stories where the stories are great, but they'll have like what I call like plain Jane dialogue. And basically what I mean is like not dialogue that's necessarily like bad per se, but just dialogue where it's like it seems really generic, seems really flavorless, or doesn't really fit with the character. Where I'll hear a piece of dialogue where I can see myself, you know what? I could see them saying that, but just not that way. If that makes sense. But in getting at the fanfics, I know another one I used to really love, and it was kind of the one that really actually got me into doing fanfics for Animaniacs. It's this one that was a long ago one called Family. And in this one, there was like an alternate universe type of deal. So this was one where the Warner owns Yakwa and Dot. Instead of being like creating a studio and hitting a Warner lot, these were actually were actually orphans. But remember, they had parents, but then they ended up getting orphaned later down the lines. And basically, what's interesting, it's kind of set in kind of a Roger Rabbit world where toons and humans kind of coexist with each other. And basically, the story, is about is that they actually start off poor, with very like unattentive, like neglectful parents. They end up running away, live on their own. And, after they do that, they end up getting discovered by Warner Bros. Where they end up having their own show. And it's pretty neat too, because they basically kind of have them exploring. It's kind of like a coming of age story with them too, because while they're still having like wacky adventures and stuff and such, they're still also have a lot of like episodes where they're coming of age, they're kind of learning how to talk, they're learning how to socialize, learning relationship. It's actually a pretty like grounded and down to earth story, in spite of all the wackiness in between. In fact, I have to give that one a read one day. I think a good number of like anime I think that came out like since they were influenced by that, because that was also one of the first time I heard the term headspace. No, hammer space. I think that's what it was. So basically, what hammer space is basically like, say, if a student was like pulling an inanimate object out of their pocket, it could be like an anvil or something big, like a pie or something, like something that obviously wouldn't be able to fit in your regular pocket. But in a hammer space, you can do that though, and that at least where that term comes from. At least that's the first time I've actually seen that phrase at least being used. So let me kind of get his tail at the very back. So let me get more of these bushes. Speaking of Pandas, my kangaroo pass a hammer space of his path to his own. I think I've seen that, because I remember some of the drawings you showed me of usually of Tobias. He does create a kind of a hammer space. We'll pull like different objects. Yeah, I think I do remember you showing me that. Because I know before I saw that term, usually I would say, in their big pocket or back pocket, something like that. Because sometimes you just never know how to really like describe something, because like there was never really like a set rule for it up until just now, or until that point. Because I think I have maybe some more leaves like that are falling. And also, let me see. Yeah, even though I'm not quite done with that, I think I am still going to kind of draw some of his dialogue. I still look formal, yes? Where's the food? That's what he would say. Yeah, and I get all different animal characters. But yeah, I'm just gonna kind of refine this just a bit more before I start like really adding some color to it. I was gonna do one of my Drawtober drawings like for today as well. I mean, at least here on the stream, but I hadn't really set down which one I want to do just yet. In fact, they'll probably come to me like kind of once I'm done with this, after the stream. Because normally what I do is I tend to kind of like write down like just kind of like different like prompt words I have in mind like for different days. Like there are some I have like set for certain days. Like I know, for example, for 29th, that's on Dan Castellaneta's birthday. For those who don't know, Dan Castellaneta, he voices a lot of the characters on The Simpsons. Of course, he does like Homer, he does Krusty, he also will in the others too. So I already got something planned like to do with them on that day. I haven't said. Now, I'm not going to reveal what it is, like, just yet. But I will say it will, at very least, involve, like, both Krusty and, Homer in there. Yeah, it's almost kind of like a big, like, old mini tradition, too, where, I'll draw something, like, Sims Relay, like, on that day. Because I think it started, like, around, like, 2022. Where I did something, because on that first day, like, that was by coincidence. I just happened to find out it was on his day, and I did something there. And when I think I did, it was called Celebration. I think I did one with, it was a couple of characters. It was like Homer, Krusty, Willie, Barney, and Abe and Abe Simpson, Homer's dad. They're all together, like a birthday cake, and then I think on the and I think also in the background there's like some like a balloons that have like the genie from Aladdin and Grandma Jim Hay on the balloons as well, because they also voiced them too. And that actually I think probably ended up being really doing really well when I posted that one. So I figured I'd probably do it again. So of course I did another one, with it's another one I think with Krusty again, where he's actually more of a rodeo cowboy. And also I did I think in that central one it also had Luigi, I think one of the like Italian chef that's on that show, who's also was a Castellaneta. And funny, that's kind of where I got the idea of kind of doing kind of a small stout cowboy like I doing for Gino for my that looks amazing. Hey, thank you. Wasn't sure if I got another story in the notes phase. I don't know if I saw it just yet. Okay, I've seen it now because I'm actually on yeah, I just brought up a Discord on my stream, so okay, I think I see some of the new stuff. So I hadn't had a chance to look at it just yet. Yeah, but I'll definitely kind of check it out later on once I'm done. Yeah, so I'm just doing is kind of thicken up some of these outlines a bit more. Just thicken up just a bit more before I decide to actually go ahead and start coloring everything in. Yeah, let me kind of get the brows I bit. Let me get the more stuff of his hair. Adventure Screen TBS. Oh, okay, cool. That's good to know. Let me get some of his wings. It's kind of his more bent wings. And yeah, I just can't believe, Halloween's gonna be almost right in the corner pretty soon. I know where we are. I think I have some candy on standby. I think we are getting like a bag of candy, like in case we do get some trickery. Because over in my little neighborhood, we do occasionally get some trickeries that come by, and usually we don't get that. I think at most, we get maybe like 1 to probably 3, depending on like what time it starts. And luckily, for the most part, they tend to come early in the evening. Because I think for us, usually, whenever we get trick or treaters, we usually just cut them off like around like 9 o'clock. Which makes sense. Because I figure 9 o'clock at that point, kids should be in bed. Or at the very least, they're going through the candy they've already gotten like early in the day. I'm gonna be as shocked because I love them. Yeah, I don't blame you. Sharks are great. That was honestly why when I did the art trait for you, I really liked doing Shark Tooth because it was really fun actually like drawing him. And also kind of he kind of reminded me of like this one show I used to watch years ago on Discovery. I think it was on Discovery Kids. Like, what was that cartoon show? It used to air Kenny the Shark. That was the one. Because I remember I remember back when Hub and Hasbro used to be Discovery Kids. Like that was one of the shows I used to watch because they used to have a lot of different shows, and that was one. And Kenny Shark, that was like one of them. So you see, he's got this wild matted hair. Yeah, I thought it was on your character. Yeah, you did a great job on Manny. I really loved how well you did that. I also like how you got in this performance where you kind of juggled at different stuff. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I actually wouldn't. Yeah, I just wouldn't mind seeing you kind of do again one of these days. But of course, I'll let you know when time comes, like what I'd like to have done. And in fact, I think while I'm at now, I think I've gotten the line where our line down pretty good too. So I think now what I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna go ahead and start actually coloring in our scene here. So let me get some of these colored pencils out. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I think for right now I am gonna start off, with the background. So let me just kind of start by coloring in these trees. Yeah. And it's always fun. It's stuff I've really enjoyed, like getting kind of doing like other people's characters and like see how fun it is, like like drawing them. Yeah, I really did enjoy Shark Tooth. I'm glad to know you enjoyed doing Manny too. So that was wonderful. And I've been meaning to kind of do some more stuff with Manny as of lately too, because I think the most recent one I did was I think it was probably the most I think it was one of the ones I did with Drawtober where he actually kind of that was the one that was called Expensive, where he actually tries being kind of a Disney adult. He ends up kind of going to the Disneyland. So that was the one right here, Expensive. That was the one. So that's like the most recent one I've done so far with him. Even though I am planning on doing like some more like later on down the line. You know, because I'm thinking, as a fun character, a great friend for you. And oh yeah, because I definitely wouldn't do one, kind of try to do another one day, you know, with him and Henry. Because I know it was cool because I just kind of bounced a different idea, like, especially since, you know, like him being more of like a prop comic with that fun just like cartoon logic, and of course like Henry's more a full blown like magician. Yeah, I think they just both kind of played off each other really well. So I definitely wouldn't. So I definitely love the kind of just to kind of like work with them again. One is gets with two of them together. I still am considering actually kind of doing kind of another kind of drawing of him where he's either doing one of these two things. Either one where I think where he started doing routine, or one where he's kind of like talking about himself. Like I had one idea I thought about doing where he ends up kind of like he actually talks about how people ask him, hey, yeah, how come you never considered being a clown? You kind of look like one. And then you look like one, and then he kind of reveals it like, hey, you know, there was a point where I did consider, you know, being a clown. But then he said he didn't stay because like I couldn't afford, you know, like the clown college tuition. Because apparently that's a thing. Like you actually do have to go to if you want to become a professional clown, you have to go to an actual clown college and actually know order to do that. So it's not just a bit from a Simpsons episode. I may have been memory goldfish at the time, but I think you should show you my Headcanons Voices video. I don't know if I've seen that one. I'll have to kind of go back through the notes to see if you've shown that one yet. I want to see that, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, but I'll definitely have to check that out like once like later on today once I'm kind of done with this. Yeah, but I think Can't Believe Halloween's around the corner because I think for what was the other day I was going to mention? But yeah, I think like for Halloween time, I think we here on there we normally don't get that many like trick or treat. I think we get probably at least about 2 or 3, and that'll be pretty much be it. Now I know there's probably like other neighborhoods where oh, it's down to DM. Okay, cool. Because I know here where I am, like it tends to be what neighborhood you go to. Because like usually like neighborhoods where they have a lot of like kids, where the parents have a lot of kids in the neighborhood, they'll tend to go a lot more out for Halloween versus where in one where I'm at, like we have some kids that live here, but a lot of the ones here they've already since grown up and moved out, so you're not really gonna see, you know, like as often. And I'll see it more here, compared to where I used to, because I know back where I used to live, back the old place, you know, that I had moved out a while ago, I didn't get any at all, even though it was a fairly popular area because like I know that because I lived about a good like block away from like an elementary school, and you know that school they would do like lots of trick or treaters. In fact, I remember I don't get many trick or treaters though. Huh? It's funny to see how Wisconsin. Oh yeah. In fact, I remember over in that area where I used to stay at, they used to have like I think they moved on a different date. They used to have like a full on like Halloween's like fall festival. I remember the first year I had moved out there. In fact, it was shortly after I had moved in. I never found what it is, but they had something going on. I don't know, it was like trick or treat thing, like a haunted like housing going on. Because I remember they had a good chunk of the street blocked off. Because I had to take an alternate route just to get back home because like it was blocked off. They had a whole bunch of kids like in the middle of the street. They were going inside other people's houses. They had like a bunch of cars. Like so, they were having a ball. I don't know what type of ball it was, but they were having one. I remember when I was a kid, there used to be so many trick-or-treat theaters and even bright decorations. I missed that era. I remember oh, yo, that's awesome. Just the Goku? Oh, that's neat. Oh, that is neat. That's a killer costume. Because I think for me, like, I don't remember too much from when I dressed. I think one time I dressed up as, like, a jack-o'-lantern. Another time I think I dressed up as Tarzan. I want to say one time I dressed up as, like, Superman 1.2. I gave more interviews as a scared by wolf costume one year. Oh, nice. I bet that would have been great. And I remember, because I used to go trick-or-treating with my sister. I remember she would go all out with, she used to go all out more with, her costume. I remember, like, one year she dressed as, like, Princess Jasmine. That one time she was Ariel. Then I think another time, because because she used to do a lot of the like princess related stuff too. And usually when we did, of course, you're like, since we kind of kept to our neighborhood for the most part. Sometimes, oh, Dino Contest, oh, nice. And sometimes our parents would drive to other neighborhoods. If other neighborhoods had some stuff going on too. But yeah, nowadays it really does depend on kind of like where you go, where you go. If it's kind of a more of an older neighborhood, a new neighborhood, but also they got a lot of families in there too. It really does kind of vary depending on where you go. So let me kind of color in some of the trunks. And of course, I think with our parents, of course, they would always kind of check the can and make sure, it hadn't been tampered, which is just good protocol anyway. Favorite costume ever was a flannel Dio costume that went over my entire body and oh, a flannel Dio costume that went over my entire body. Oh, that sounds cool. It's funny. Normally I don't like inflatable stuff, but for costumes, that just sounds great though. I think if you're doing inflatable stuff, you gotta have it be a costume because I think in that it just looks funny. It just looks great. I mean to go out dress my character at some point in time, but I want to go and trick or treat again for the fun of it. Or dress as Joanne in suit different clothes. Oh, nice! Oh, that is great. That's great. So you set like the whole get up. And yeah, dressing up, that's just something I hadn't really done, in years. Because really the only time, like, nowadays I've really dressed up for anything, really, is really just when I've done those conventions. Yeah, that's the only time thinking about lately in recent years I've done for conventions. Especially when I did the convention, did like the Chattanooga one and Dragon Con. And when I got Trick or Treating Spirit, yeah, I'd like to get back. Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting back to Trick or Treating Spirit 2. I wouldn't mind going like a Halloween themed party though, because I know because I've always heard about different ones that have been pop up around town. Because like even though I don't really hear too much about trick or treating, like we still have a lot of things where people will have like Halloween like themed like parties or Halloween themed like concerts and events, and occasionally I'll hear about those. So I've been meaning to kind of check one of those out. I know one I went to. I can't remember if it was Halloween themed. But it was around that same time period. It was around that the Halloween season, if I recall. I went to this I think I was dressing in French at some point. I've always wanted a Malthor or Henry fursuit. Oh yeah, I think you probably kill with the Malthor fursuit. I think that'd be great. That or Henry, but definitely the Malthor. I could see that one being great. I think you probably kill that one. Yeah. And what was I about to say? But I think one place I went out to for that was around Halloween theme time. I think it was a concert. It's this local band that's here in Georgia it was called Yacht Rock Review. So they're really more like a soft rock group, but they're known for doing a lot of like covers like old like R&B, funk, and soft rock songs. But this particular show I went to, it was like a trippy one to like Michael Jackson. So the second half. So it was split in two halves, because at the first half, they just kind of did the regular stuff, where they did a lot of covers of like some regular like soft rock hits. But the other half was they did the entirety of the Thriller album. So they did the whole thing like from Wanna Be Starting Something, Beat It, and of course they ended it with Thriller. And the cool thing about it, because keep in mind, the place they performed at is this place called Variety Place, so it's not a huge venue. So they don't have a room to kind of like do like a full-on dance sequence. So it's kind of fun when I think about looking back at it now. So when it came time for Thriller, when they did the actual like kind of Thriller dance, where I told zombie dance like Michael does, since they couldn't even be moving around, like since they didn't have a lot of dancing, I think it was just two guys singing and kind of moving too. What they did, they had these two like trampolines. They're kind of in the middle of the stage. And as they're kind of doing it, they kind of jumping the trampolines, they're kind of jumping up and down, but they're also doing the moves like to the beat of the song. I know it sounds silly, but like it was just have a cool, like kind of cool kind of work around like that limitation, because since it's not that of a small stage, they couldn't like move around like do the whole thing. Like there was a way of still kind of doing it, but kind of do like in that same place. One of my friends is the High Tide Hooligans. Oh yeah, I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen the drawings you have done for them. Yeah, I think those have been great. Yeah, those have been really good. So I can tell you really have a lot of fun drawing those, because like I always like how you end up drawing those guys. So let me just kind of add a little more shading here on the trees. Yeah, let me go and sharpen these pencils real quick. Give me just one moment. Alright, I'm back. But I figured the right for it. Yeah, I can definitely tell, and I like I mentioned before, debuting Wilbur gets the boot. I think you did mention that. Yeah, I can't wait to draw her when I love, but you know, it's just such a fun job. Be sure to address. Oh yeah, I know you will. I definitely know you will. In fact, I think while I know, I just came across one of the other sketchbooks that I had. Give me just one moment. And so far, the other two characters, like Gino and Earl, like those are two like the main ones that I got going on as of right now. Background's really cool. Yeah, thanks, Shay. Yeah, I'm glad you like it so far. Might do a little more to it. So there's another like new character I'm working on like for the Western story as well. It's actually this guy right here. I haven't given him a name just yet, but this guy he's kind of more. He's actually more of like an antagonist, more like a twist villain because because basically in the story, like Gino, like he becomes like kind of a sheriff kind of by accident, but part of the reason he becomes a sheriff by accident is that this guy actually convinced him to become one even though he knows that Gino's like complete inexperienced and doesn't know how to anything about being a cowboy, so he ends up kind of tricking to being one to become one. But later on down the line, like he and Gino becoming rivals because like Gino's like find out this guy is actually like a very crooked crook on the down low. So he's like a surprise villain in a way. So I haven't given them a name just yet. I know a few of them I've been thinking about doing is that a few names I think that's probably either Abbott, or Buddy, or John. I think there was a few others that got mentioned in Discord stream. There's a few I'm still kind of bouncing around. Twist villains were like awesome. Yeah, and twist villains, that's one thing I think I'm gonna have to yeah, and see, that's the idea. I want to kind of be this guy who's very full of us, very smug, where he's a guy who's clearly good at what he does, but he's definitely a guy who's very smug and very arrogant. And he seems like a guy that would really kind of... And I also want to be a guy where he's probably the guy that most people probably would think of when they think of, like your typical cowboy lead. And that's why I kind of designed Gino the way he is, because, he's really more of like an underdog type character. Where he's kind of a less kind of you wouldn't think of kind of being the hero. But yeah, twist villains, when they're done right, they can be great and that's another thing too. That's why, as I'm kind of working, I'm going to decide, how I'm going to really kind of make sure I get his motives down because while twist villains can be great, they are really fun to do. They can be done great when they're done right, but also great when they're done wrong too. Because I think Malthor should have an ego off who can do most of that stuff the most. I'll spend with high toss return. Oh great, let me see if I got it through. Okay, good. I think I just got it from you. I'll check it out once I'm done. Oh yeah, I see the thing you sent from Chuck as well. Okay, you added more color to it. Oh good. Yeah, I'll definitely check out more of it later on. Oh great, thanks. Sorry, thanks. And ego off of who is feeling himself the most. And because I know he'll be like a rival, but also surely you have a lesser weapon and you do magic. Oh, that would be great. Yeah, that would be a good one. And another thing I think I saw about doing it later on the line is that I figured with while he becomes like a rival between him and Gino, I think another thing with him and Earl is that Earl could probably have one idea I thought is that him and Earl might have a history where Earl actually knows him and actually knows that he's been a crook all along because Earl actually used to be an outlaw himself like years ago before he ended up turning over like a new leaf. So he can see right through, his deception a lot easier than from the others. The only thing about it, with him is that since, he's kind of alone, but also since he's that kind of a character that people in the local town don't really trust, people are less likely to believe him if he were to ever really speak up about it. I try to ego to him, but Gnarly especially. I can definitely see that with Gnarly. He definitely kind of has, like that ego thing. There's like karmic butt monkeys. Yeah, and sometimes those characters are always kind of fun to do because especially like more egg or ego driven ones because it's always more satisfying when written right. You can run away to where their ego, to where what stories that the ego is playing for them, or especially against them. Those are always the ones that are really fun to do because it's kind of like really kind of setting up what you know about that character, having to set up, then putting them in a situation where it ends up really challenging them and compromising them in a way. So I think when we do, I'm going to start coloring in Malthor himself. Let's see. Yeah, I know he's got like a pinkish color. Like color though, might add a little bit of orange to this later on because like even though this is a pink, it's still kind of a bright pink though. So I think I am got a little orange to kind of dull it out a bit. So based on what I'm just gonna call kind of his bare exposed skin so far for right now. But yeah, like I said, I'm playing up a lot of other different characters that appear like down the line throughout the story. But that guy who's on Twisted, he's definitely gonna be one of the main one. And there's gonna be like other characters like playing like down the line where are like one-off like characters, especially like one-off villains that like Gino and Earl will go up against. Because that's the thing, the story. Because like he ends up becoming a sheriff, while Gino becomes a sheriff. Like Earl, he ends up becoming like a bounty hunter. And basically, they work side by side, like catching like these different people like out in the Wild West. Yeah, let me get his other arm here too. Yeah, the orcas have a comic strip of their own. Oh, they do. I don't know if I've seen that one yet. Give it a chance. See, if you haven't sent it to me already, definitely send it again. I'd like to check it out. This one if I drive a car ran as a Harkonnen. Oh, nice. It went God, I think you did a drawing. Did you do a drawing of him like not too long ago? Cause I think I might have seen that when I was on BlueSky, either on BlueSky or on DeviantArt. So I have to like do for the shovel. And Harlequins, those are always a pretty stylish look. That kind of reminds me, I think there was this Harlequin drawing I think I had made like years ago. I don't know if, I can't remember if it was that or a Jester. It might have been either one of those. No, it might have been Harlequin now that I think about it. Because I think about, Harlequins, they tend to have somewhat more dignified look compared to, like, say, maybe like the Jester. And also especially kind of like a Joker, really. Yeah, some places kind of like coloring area. Well, I guess I think this actually works. I thought this would be a little bit too pink, or too much of like a hot pink, but this actually works out okay. Because sometimes you just never know until you really work at it and see how it looks. Alright, so let me color in his hair too. And of course, then once I'm done with that, I'm gonna kind of show you guys some of the other stuff that I've been working on as well. Yeah, I think where I am, it's starting to get a little chilly here now. Like now, it's starting to feel like fall, where it's actually gotten really chilly in the morning. Like it will warm up. It will usually warm up like kind of like later day once it gets up. But I think right now, I think it's already in like the 50s, 60s right about now. But I know like, a lot of times when I wake up early in the morning, it's like almost like low. It's like in the 50s, almost in the 40s at least in the morning. So now to the point where the heat's gonna be turning up pretty soon, because it just reminds me, since now we're in fall, that of course Thanksgiving's gonna be right on the corner. Then Christmas. The shorts are the highlight for the Comedy Night series. The Woodlands have that, but a bit toned down. Yeah, I think I do because I definitely know it's like the more out there on the whackers are definitely with the sharks. that's something I've noticed. Like sometimes with certain characters, like once you kind of establish like what their personalities are and what type of series it in, then it's a matter of time what type of tone you want too. Yeah, but I actually hadn't noticed that bit, and I actually like that. In fact, I think one of the dial boxes. I think last night, because I think I was I think it was either last night or the other. I was actually rereading one of the other scripture. I think it was the one. I think it was the one where they were like, where it was a character where like we're actually turning to be like firefighter. I think which one was it? That was the one with Spark. That was the one with Sparky Barrington. It was a few other folks too. Folks too. That and it was Sparky, Sam, Sparky, and some of the other folks. And I think Chuck was there too, and that one ended up being a lot of fun. Kind of like rereading that one because I'm reading that. It almost kind of reminded me like, what was this show? Firefighters Annual. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I was rereading that not too long ago. That one was pretty fun because it also reminded me cause like, what was that show? What was one cartoon show that I came across a while back? I've only seen it here on YouTube. I think it was called Fire Dogs. I think that was the one. Because that was like a whole cartoon that kind of centered around like these sword dogs actually kind of like fighting different. I can't remember if it was actually called Fire Dog. It was actually called Fire Dogs. It was called something else. All I know is that I'd only seen like else. I hadn't seen them elsewhere. I hadn't really seen it elsewhere aside because that's the weird thing. Like there were like some like shows like where like cartoon shows that even though like they've had a whole bunch of episodes, but I've only been able to find them like on YouTube. And that show is like one of them. I'm trying. What is that? I'm trying to think. What was its full name? Because I don't think it was Fired. I think it was called something else. Because I don't have any pictures that kind of like, the pictures are only posted here in case to see if you guys can ID it. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. It's just like a few moments. Give me just a moment. Whole Sound. I think that was it. Yeah, that was it. That's what it kind of reminded me of. Yeah. Okay, so it's as the premiere on 1999 on a family channel. Okay, so it was on TV at one point in time. I thought so. I just never seen it on TV though. Yeah, because the only time I'd really seen it was when it was on YouTube. No, you're right. You were right the first time. It was Hose Hounds. It was Hose Hounds. Yeah, that was exactly it. Thank you. Thank you. But it was one of the shows like where like once I had found out about it, I haven't really seen anywhere else since then, even though it aired on TV. I think there was another one that I came across on here on YouTube that in fact it's a little harder to come across now. It was called Caper Town Cops, and in that one it was more of a wild kind of slapstick based like show where it sounded like these four kind of like bum like Keystone Cops. It's kind of a pretty old martial, those old like silent film those silent film like cartoons from that era. The only thing about it is like I haven't been able to find anything about the show because apparently they only had like 2 seasons, but I looked up online. There's not much able to find out. It's honestly what kind of makes this show interesting to me is that there's so little information able to find out about it. All I can find out is that it aired for like 2001 and 2002. Only had like 2 seasons. Apparently they can make for I think for Saban Entertainment. And I was surprised and I want to say it did air on TV because apparently it did air on some channels. And it also did some like a good couple of people that were on the show did end up working on it because I think Bill Cobb was one of the writers. He normally did stuff for like Eat the Cat, a couple other stuff from the 90s. And I recognize at least one of the voice actors on the show, Scott Menville. He does a couple of voices on there. But I haven't been able to find anything about that particular show. But it was surprising because it's actually kind of a fun show too. Now, granted, it does get to a point where in some episodes where instead of paying homage to a lot of like the old school like Looney Tunes guys, like there's other cases where they're just flat out ripping them off at certain points. But it's pretty. Yeah, but it was pretty fun. see. Now let me get back to Spip. Now let me get his actual suit jacket himself. I don't have an actual purple on hand, so I'm just gonna mix a little bit of purple and red here. In fact, let me start with the red first, and then I gotta go over it, with the blue that I got, the dark blue. Oh, what happened to one I just had? I just had a moment I dropped it. I can't believe that. If I see Malthor like this, oh yeah, he'd definitely run. I don't think he'd have the thing. I don't think he'd be able to handle dragons. I'm gonna leave your stream to eat my food. Goodbye. Hey, see you later, Shay. I'm glad you were able to drop in though. It's good to see you. Yeah, magic wolves he can handle. I think dragon, especially ones that are hungry. Yeah, I think he'd have to learn to bow out after this one. I gotta think of Zing. He'd probably say something like, "Hey, I know fast food's fiber, but this is fast." He'll point himself and say, "Well, this is some fast food you can't have," and then he'll run off. Where's that pencil? Here we go. I got it. I think so. Here's the forwarding up case people are new. If I use colored pencil, there's more than 2 characters, so to color code them. And yeah, I think you did show me. You did show me that. That's actually a really smart idea, and as far as actually keeping drawing more complicated scenes, because I know sometimes when I would sketch, I would use like different colored pencils for sketching, but normally I did if I'm refining like a single sketch with probably like either one or a few characters. I hadn't really considered doing that like for like several ones though, but the way you describe it, we're using it for like using a different color for each different character, that's actually a really like efficient way. I like that. Nowadays, Henry could probably maybe by using Malthor, become his bodyguard or something. Oh yeah, that would be great. Basically, they start going at it, and then of course he gets Malthor in the mix, and of course Manny ends up running off. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, I'm just kind of color this in red first before I start going over in blue to get that nice like royal purple look. Yeah, that dark purple he's got on. Yeah, I can imagine starting me and Manny begin to see how deranged he is. And yes, it's funny, I almost consider the idea he gets caught off. I could say maybe one day, I fear maybe he's at the sea, maybe he either swims in the ocean, or he's probably fishing, he ends up fishing shark tooth by mistake. And then they probably start going at it. Either that or he just starts running. Yeah, I'm just kind of spitballing ideas here. So that looks good. Let me go into blue. In fact, let me sharpen that one real quick. Alright, here we go. So, let me kind of go over, his little blazer thing here. So I'm just gonna lightly kind of go over the red I got, so it's gonna be a nice kind of dark purple. Yeah, imagine the story between Brandon, mine, and your characters. Oh yeah. Oh, that would be great. Yeah, that would be so chaotic too. I can definitely see that happening. That was happening. Good, I think. Let me bring this down and see it's getting a nice purple. Yeah, so I just gotta go back and forth because now I'm kind of almost getting in the zone now. We'd have to figure out what type of story we want to do if we were to ever put them all together though. If we ever did that, but that would be great. I think maybe maybe we could start, either Manny and Henry having like a little sort of a prank war going on. Maybe Henry convinced them to call like trick, maybe going to sea or something. Maybe once he goes to the sea, then he ends up running a shark tooth, and then maybe maybe somehow he gets that mix with the hooligans there, and then he has him have him go back at Henry. You know, just kind of figure some ideas here too. That I'm not sure. Oh yeah, that I'm not sure. This is fun though. I know we don't get to discuss like stories like this midstream like this. This is fun though. Let's see. Let's see, because I know. Let me kind of color the inside and just a little bit darker than the outside of his suit jacket. Let me just kind of shade the inside a bit more. I think I might color this so I can have a deeper red later on in just a moment. Almost forgot, his hair right here, so let me color that in. Yeah, another addition to high tattoo is Shrimp with a squealer, a little timid shrimp that spills beans on a hooligan this close like saying, "Oh, nice." I love that stay. Love that idea. Oh yeah, that'd be add like different dynamic. Like it's like a Tattler who's constantly kind of getting him in trouble, but they're so close too. Yeah, honestly, the way you're describing, it's almost kind of getting like good Ed and Eddie energy too, because they would always kind of get different schemes. They're always getting in trouble. They're always like one or two, and sometimes every now and then, if the plan didn't fold in on themselves, they'd have a person that would kind of like rat them out. Maybe kind of just darken, his hair just a bit more. That's looking pretty good. So let me see. Let me get his eyes while we're at it. Yeah, I have back at the lead for a second. That's totally fine. And I do remember some of the pictures showing me kind of like two different colored eyes. So he's got one that's actually yellow and one that's actually kind of dark. And in fact, let me see if I can erase that a little bit so I can bring his pupil back out. Actual translate called the humans are the main sewer layer. It's called the hooligans actually falling to super. I have to find a way. Oh, that's nice. I like that. Sounds neat. Now I'm trying to get Manny at some point. Oh, nice. Yeah, I think as we're kind of like drawing like more of our different characters, different characters like that's definitely something like we could probably do like down the lines, having something all together. Arrange Figment. Oh yeah, Figment from Epcot. In fact, I don't even know if there's any. In fact, I don't even know if there's any even in if there's any evidence of Figment left, because I know like Figment, that was kind of more of a thing. He was kind of the unofficial mascot like for Epcot. I think throughout the 80s and 90s. But I don't know if I don't think he's as present in the park nowadays though. In fact, with that one I did of Manny, that one I had to show you of Manny where he just got from Disney. I'm almost tempted to do like more of a more expanded kind of where he talks about experience with Disney World, like how much it's changed. Because I figure like since such a huge park, nowadays, I figure maybe it's fair probably do a story of basically it's a place he visited years ago. Then he goes back, he sees how much different it is, and I figure it'd be funny because it's a lot of different absurd adventures, but also it kind of how much the park has changed, but also how much expensive it's been. Because I think I've looked up how expensive Disney World is now. It's really pricey if you're going even just for one person. Of course, it also depends on if we're going in the peak season, like in say the late spring or summer, versus you go in the fall or winter time, it's probably a lot less expensive. Let me kind of darken the pistol lapels a bit more here too. The only people that tend to go there are the rich folks. Yeah, I've seen a lot of folks tend to go to folks who have a lot of money and can afford to do that, especially if they're going for more than a few weeks. Especially because I even hear they even got more exclusive clubs. They even got these clubs now if you want to go for fine dining type of deal, which is weird though. Because normally if I were to go to an amusement park, I wouldn't go to an amusement park for fine dining. Now, grant I am biased because me and my family, we've always been Universal Studio stands. We've always been big supporters of that one. I haven't never how expensive it is, but it's not too much a fan anymore since the end they feel too corporate out. Yeah, they have. Yeah, because I think I did go to Disney World. I think at least 2 times when I was young, years ago. And granted, I still have for what little I do remember, I do have fond memories seeing it at that time. I still remember when I went back when I was 3, and I know it was when I was 3 because it was I think it was in 90, so that would probably be 95 or 96. And I remember because when I went that time, they had celebrated Disney World's 25th anniversary, so that'll kind of give you an idea how long ago this was. And what they did is when we went to Magic Kingdom, what they did, they redecorated the Magic Kingdom castle to look like an actual birthday cake. And I just remember thinking at the time, I thought it was a real cake. And I wanted my parents to take me to that castle so I could eat some of it. But yeah, I had a great time. I remember really enjoying it when I went there, but I'm no rush to go back. Plus, I remember we always had much better time at Universal Studios. One, because we got better ticket deals. We got better deals when went to Universal Studio, Out Adventures. And plus, that studio, at least I feel they had a lot more to do. I had a better price. Yeah, you're right. It was like that, for a full year. For yeah, in fact, I think we still have pictures from. It was an embarrassment. It was like that for a full year. Yeah, because I think that was the thing that they would do every now and then. They'll redecorate the whole cast. They'll cast for certain keystone events. But yeah, as much as I enjoyed, I don't really rush to kind of go back because. If I were to go back to Orlando again, which funny enough, I did do that not too long because I went down there for a cruise trip, but that's a whole other story. I think when I went back, I wouldn't mind going to do Island Adventure Universal Studios again because I remember all the places we used to go to, of course, because they had the roller coasters. They had I think what's that? Not the Goliath. What's that ride these roller coasters used to always have? Not Goliath. Or is it Goliath? I'm probably getting confused with Six Flags. Let me look that real quick. Got a full ride list. I'm just looking up because I realized they've probably changed a lot since I've probably been there. Barbara Super Island, the Hulk coaster, that was one. That's one my sister was she was always been big into roller coasters. She used to love that. They had the Stormforce Altercation, the Amazing Adventure of Spider-Man. I haven't, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen that one, but I've heard that one was pretty good. I remember the stuff I used to always was out closer towards the Universal Studios section because that's when they had the Jurassic Park ride, Back to the Future. I used to remember that being cool. Men in Black Alien Attack, that was my favorite one. I used to love going there. And of course, since we were kids at the time, of course, Universal Studios, it wasn't too far from Nickelodeon Studios, which is right next door. I remember we went there one time. I think we were really young. I think we went there back when they used to do live shows there. I think we went there. I think when they did an episode, I think it was Double. I can't remember if it was Double Dare or it was another show. It was one of those game shows that was on around that they were working on around that time. It was during the 90s. But I remember we went there when that was still a big thing. And one thing I'm surprised I never went to, even though it was that same era, Funtastic World of Hanna-Barbera. cause like that, cause I've seen like pictures online where they had the whole ride. I thought to myself, this would have been cool. I wish I would really love this. Of course, cause you know me, I always grew up watching like the Hanna-Barbera stuff, and I was surprised I never went because it was like right in that same area. Cause I think let me look up real quick. So I think it lasted from 1990 to 2002, which is strange because 2002 that's where I run. That was probably around the time I went. Randall's a well example of a civil snake character. I don't think I've seen Randall yet. I don't know if I came across him yet. I have to look him back. Kind of look, check it out again and see. Yeah, right now I'm just kind of going back over my sketch to see if there's anything other additions I want to make to him. For Malthor, that looks good. That looks good. I'm trying to think of certain areas I want to darken up. I know his pants tend to be a little bit harder darker to suit check, so I think I had to darken these up just a bit more. Yeah, now that I'm pretty much done, I'm just kind of like doing like little spot treatments here and there, just doing spot treatments for like where I can add some new stuff. Yeah, but Spiffy, I hope you've been really liking how as things turns out. I know this whole thing tend to take a little longer than I expected, but it was pretty cool drawing old Malfoy here. He's a pretty fun guy. But I definitely would want to stay far away from him when he's hungry, though. That's for certain. Let me kind of bring his claws a bit more. Don Bluth helped that HB ride. You know what? I didn't know that. But you know what? Honestly, that explains a lot. Because I've seen like clips online of the ride that how the animation looks so good. And you mentioned that Don Bluth was involved. You know what? That explains it. That explains a whole lot. Now that I think of looking back at it now. Because I've seen clips online, I was like, I would have really loved going to this, back when I was younger. Because, it's such like a love letter to that series. You take a lot, like you take your time, you do a wonderful job as I do. Hey, thank you. Guys, I'm going to show you what you like. Oh yeah, I'd definitely like to check them out. Oh, I think I see some of the ones you just sent. Okay, cool. I think you did send me one of these two. Okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely can see that he's definitely more of like a clip. He's definitely more of a civil type character. Yeah, but it's always fun because I like to take my time, but at the same time, I always like to make sure I have time to really kind of chat with you guys, kind of ramble about different stuff. It's always kind of really fun to kind of really get a chance to really like do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So I thank you for this. I'll probably end it here for today. So that's our hungry guy Malfoy here. I like how Draven Malfoy looks here. His clothes very hold on. But yeah, I figure once he's been in the woods for like over almost half a year, now everything's gonna be fully intact. But fully intact, especially if you can't really fly out there. That's why I figure I kind of draw his wings kind of bent, so he probably can't really do that. Like, if I try to remember, is he a dragon that can normally fly? Okay, you have a good one. Yeah, I'll definitely see. Yeah, a chance I can see you later. Hope to see you for the next stream. Because my best case scenario, I do want to try and stream tomorrow. Because I'm not scheduled to go in for work tomorrow. But that's not guarantee though. I might have something come up. Because I am trying to get in the process of actually like streaming a bit more often. But I'm deciding if I want to do another weekday or another week or a weekend. Because I would say, for example, when I do like the TikTok streams, I normally do those. These are on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, kind of like late at night. I tend to do those there, but I do want to try to pick another day. Because I know at one point I did do it on Friday. I did do it on Fridays, but the thing is, Fridays I tend to do double duty at both of my day jobs there, so I'm usually pretty tired to stream on those days. So I figured maybe if I'll do it on a day like either like a Tuesday or Thursday where I'm not as busy, I'm not as tired. But yeah, in the meantime, like, let me show you kind of some of the other stuff. The nails. That's oh yeah, because I figure his nails have to kind of grow out too. Yeah, and also for some of the other stuff that I've been doing as of late, I think I showed you some of the stuff. Let's try and watch out. See tomorrow if you do the stream. Oh yeah, most definitely. And I think later on today, I do plan on posting like the new drop over stuff. If not, I do plan posting the Zoidberg one I did here. So this is one of the things I worked on during the live TikTok stream I did. That's something I did where it's part of the whole Rockstar series. Of course, when I've been drawing like Wiggum and the other like Simpson characters like Rockstars, and I kind of decided to make it into a series. I've had folks on Twitter ask if I want to turn into a series, and I think I probably would. But I figured when I do, I probably won't stick to just Simpson characters. I actually will move on to like other characters too, like later on down the line. And fine, because for some reason it ended up being something I really liked doing as far as actually like drawing various characters like in various fields. Because I know when I did the characters, I ended up doing a lot with those three, especially in Wiggum, of course, Eddie and Lou. Of course, I did more Ricky and Visits type of deal. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. So I think if I do another Rockstar, I might do one maybe where Fry or maybe Hermes probably, or Bender, since Bender actually was always like a Rockstar in a few episodes. But hey guys, I really appreciate you all kind of joining in for today's stream. I know it started a little later than usual, but I'll let you know if I end up streaming like for tomorrow morning. So until then, guys, hope you guys have a great day, have a great weekend. And I'll see y'all next time.